Hi there, it's Carol Doherty. Welcome to my Tuesday's tip, where I'm going to be talking about what to do if you have a toxic boss as a woman in STEM. Now, I know that this is all too common. I know I experience it way too often in my career. So let's talk some strategies. First, pay attention to what is your boss doing? What behaviors are you seeing from 'em? Are they toxic? Here's some of the keys to whether or not your boss is being toxic. One, do they play favorites to the detriment of others? I've had some bosses like that where the guys that I worked with got preferential treatment over me. I was the only female engineer, and my male counterparts got the opportunities to be presenting to senior leadership over me. And it was, oh, well, there was always an excuse why they deserved it more than me. And so that's some of it. And I saw other bosses where they kind of poo-pooed you, or you were invited to the meetings, but your role was to take notes, not to speak. I had one boss, and one of the worst for this, he sent me off to a meeting as his representative because there was nobody else. And he said, "Well, I trust you to make the right decision. And if you don't, I'll have to fire you." And I looked at him and said, "Promises, promises." Um, he didn't quite know what to do with that. But he was also the boss that during a performance review, I told him I felt like I was dealing with Napoleonic code, where I was guilty until proven innocent. And his comment to me was that his wife and daughter said the same thing, but his son didn't. What do you think was going on there? So watch for that. Watch for the bosses that are bullies. I've seen this. I had one that was a bully. Fortunately, I could keep my distance from him, but he was a bully. And they yell at everybody. If you make the most minor infraction, they yell. Another boss that I had, again, didn't really direct it at me, but she was terrible. If you didn't agree with her direction, she would bully you. She attacked people who didn't jump up and down for what she was proposing. And she really went on the attack when she felt like there were people who just disregarded her and didn't respect her. And so she attacked them at every possible chance she got. It was ridiculous. And people didn't trust her. And as a result, they didn't trust our department. And she was C suite. It was insane how she was behaving, but she was a bully. Um, Another way that bosses can become very toxic for your career is they inhibit growth. That boss that I told was, Napoleonic code, he kept giving me excuses why I couldn't apply for another job. "Oh, you have great potential, but I need you here for this big project we have coming up." And a year later, "Oh, yeah, that would be a great role for you, but..." We did this over and over again. And then when somebody left the team and I took on his responsibilities, he was a higher pay grade than I was. And I said, "Hey, if I'm taking on Mark's duties, why can't I be promoted to that next level?" And the answer was, "Well, we don't do in position pay grade, pay bumps." So I did the work of this other guy for less because they don't do in grade promotions or in position grade promotions. What? He inhibited my growth. Once I said, "You know what? We've got an opportunity to move to a different area. I want to transfer." I got into a different factory, a sister factory, and I got all kinds of opportunities once I moved. Toxic boss. And he was one that played favorites, and even though he would tell you he didn't, he treated everybody equal. He didn't treat people equitably. He tried to treat everybody equal, but the guys in the team tended to get opportunities I didn't. So really, there were some favorites. And he inhibited growth. And then I had other bosses that were bullies. So watch, pay attention. Is your boss exhibiting toxic behaviors? And if they are, here's some things to do. First, work on finding an advocate or a champion, somebody. And I don't necessarily mean a mentor. Mentors can do it, but you need somebody who is outside in a leadership role that will speak up for you, will bring your name up when there's opportunities for things that you could do, who will be willing to champion your career. Sometimes mentors do that, but often you need that advocate. Your boss should be doing it. Too often they don't. So find that person who will speak up for you and who will help you find new opportunities. I was fortunate a couple of times I had those folks. And it really did make a difference. That's part of how I got out from under that toxic boss. When I moved, I was clear on what I wanted, and other people, um, as they heard what I wanted to do, they were willing to say, "Hey, we should get Carol over here. Carol would be great over here. Why? When are we getting Carol?" And that made all the difference in the world for me to grow my career, was having that advocate. So find those. Then, especially if your boss is a bully, set boundaries. That boss I was telling you about who attacked people, she and I had some conversations when I first started. I knew she was that way. I knew enough about the organization. I knew how she was when I applied for the job. And so I kind of, on day one, she said, "Okay, here's how I want you to get started on this." And I looked at her and said, "No." And she was startled. And I said, "Here's why." And so I showed her that I had experience and knowledge that she didn't. And I had a plan on how to do my job to get her the results she wanted, doing it my way. And that tended to back her down. And I could present information to her, and I gave her updates, and I kept her apprised of what I was doing and not asking permission, saying, "Hey, here's what I'm doing. Any thoughts, any comments?" I'd ask for feedback, but I wouldn't give her room to tell me what to do. So I got treated very differently, but I set clear boundaries. And when she crossed them, I would call her on it. There was one time I called her on an email that she sent to one of the peers, my peers that she attacked all the time. I heard about it from both sides. And my boss is saying, "Well, eh, I made my point." I'm like, "Well, do you realize what your point, the point you made was this?" She goes, "Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted him to say, to know." Why? And so I would call her on her bad behavior. And it was interesting. She tended to take it from me where she wouldn't from others, but I was very, very firm. Now, if you have a boss that is discriminating or is harassing you, and based on your gender, if it's very, very clear. Now, that boss that kept saying, "Oh, you have great potential," but he tended to inhibit everybody's growth. He was just kind of toxic all the way around, to be honest. But if it had been even more blatant that I was getting held back because I was a woman, I could have gone to HR. And so if you feel like you're really being discriminated against or outright harassed because of your gender, that's what HR is for. Or if you have that advocate who is in a role that you can trust, go to them. Speak up. Don't let people harass you. That is illegal. If you're in the US, it's illegal. There are federal laws, and most states have pretty strict laws about that kind of behavior. Don't let them treat you that way. And then make sure you stay professional. Take the high road. They're taking the low road. Stay on the high road. And then if it ever gets down to a he said, she said, whatever, boss said, you say, you can prove that you have always stayed professional, you've been respectful, and you've done the right things, and they are in the wrong. That gives you power when you're dealing with toxic bosses. So if you have more questions or thoughts or comments about it, reach out to me. If you're following me on Instagram, you know what? DM me. I would love to chat. If you're on my YouTube channel, come out to Instagram at Carol S. Doherty. Reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you, and let's help you get past these toxic bosses.